Okay, we're all set to go.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We will call the council meeting to order, please. Just a reminder, since we are on Zoom, if you have any other devices to please turn them off, or if you have barking dogs or children in the background to put yourself on mute, and remember to unmute, Wayne, when you're trying to speak. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples who have been stewards of the land since time immemorial. And as such, we treat the land, its plants, animals, stories, and people with honor and respect. We'll have the singing of O Canada, please. We will now take a moment of silence, please. Thank you. So good afternoon and welcome to today's council meeting for the town of Bancroft. I hope everybody enjoyed the long Thanksgiving weekend, albeit one that was far from normal or traditional. Many families curtailed normal plans and gatherings in light of the recent guidelines announced by the province and various public health organizations. I'd like to thank everyone who heeded the guidelines, and for those that didn't feel it was necessary, we implore you to take the recent spike in COVID-19 cases very seriously. People may feel complacent in our area due to the very low number of cases we have experienced, but I would argue that our low number of cases are the result of the majority of residents and visitors who have taken this situation very seriously, and for that, we thank you. The pandemic has had many spin-off effects, including a large exodus from larger urban centers to more sparsely populated areas, such as North Hastings. One need only to observe the abnormally high traffic in town this fall to conclude that many came and never went back. We welcome everyone. We appreciate the support you are giving to the local business community and only ask that you also take every precaution to keep the virus out of our area. This exodus has also prompted a very large demand for housing. And as a result, shortages have occurred, driving up prices on both purchase and rental units. This has exacerbated an already very tenuous situation for lower income members of our region. There is an ample supply of ready to build or development land to alleviate this situation, and it is up to all levels of government to make a supreme effort to streamline the necessary approval process. We must take advantage of all the opportunities before us to increase the housing supply. And on a somewhat related note, I'd like to thank MP Derek Sloan and his staff for organizing an information session last week to discuss the growing housing and addiction issues that many regions, including North Hastings, are facing. These are very complex issues, and we look forward to all municipalities and higher levels of government working forward not only on a long-term sustainable solution, but also immediate remedial action with the onset of winter fast approaching. Thank you. So adoption of the open session agenda, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the open session agenda dated October 13th, 2020 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Tracy McGibbon. All in favor? Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interests and nature thereof. Seeing none. We have no presentations or delegations. Approval of minutes. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the meetings of Council held on September 8th, 2020 and September 22nd, 2020 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Deputy Mayor Mullet. Any comments, questions, errors, or omissions? Seeing none. All in favor, please. Thank you. Item 8, minutes of standing committees and verbal updates. Committee of the Whole. Be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on September 22nd, 2020 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tracy McGibbon, Councillor Wiggins. Is there any comments or questions on as presented? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you, passed. Item B, Committee of Adjustment. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on September 22nd, 2020 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that as well, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon and Councillor Miles, is there any questions on that one there? Seeing none, all in favor? Pass, thank you. Item C, Downtown Enhancement Committee. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the Downtown Enhancement Committee meeting held on September 14th, 2020 and September 22nd, 2020 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that one, please?
I will move that motion.
Sure.
Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield and Deputy Mayor Mullet. Councillor Caulfield, would you like to say anything with respect to the process or where we're at and what you're looking forward to?
Absolutely. So we've had our first 2 meetings, tons of enthusiasm, awesome bunch of folks with great ideas and comments and thoughts. We will be moving forward. We have another meeting tomorrow night. We are engaging the services of a landscape and design architect to have a look at our downtown and hear some of our stories and our history and what makes us us, to give us some ideas about what things could look like or what kind of things we may want in our downtown as we redevelop. So that's really awesome. And we are thankful for the support that we had from another community agency to give us the funding to be able to do that with those professionals. Yeah, so really looking forward to tomorrow and see where things go from there.
Thank you. I'll just add to that. Leanne did send out some of the information from that first meeting, and if any council members don't have it, it's got some great slides, et cetera, that have been collected from other municipalities that present some great ideas, et cetera. Also on there, Malcolm had put forth a couple of intersection concepts, for us to provoke our thought, and that worked out really well. That did as well. And just since I have an opportunity, one other thing I'd like to mention, as part of sort of the downtown enhancement, but it was previously approved, was the reconstruction of the Flint Street parking lot. And the Public Works manager did send out a note late last week saying that I think the lot will be closed from this Thursday for a little while, and that individuals have been notified and a sign will be posted. So we look forward to that as well. So any other comments or questions on that? Could I also, all in favor of approving, please? Thank you.
Yes. Thank
So minutes of local boards and committees. The first one is the North Hastings Community Center Arena Commission. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft has hereby received the minutes of the North Hastings Community Center Arena Commission meeting held on August 12, 2020 as amended and September 2nd, 2020 as amended. Councillor Miles, you will move that?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Seconder, please. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Barry McGibbon. Councillor Miles, would you sort of speak to that and bring us all up to speed with respect, maybe even a little insight as to the effect the pandemic's having on the arena operations, et cetera?
I'd love to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the arena, of course, was shut down and missed their entire sort of late winter, early spring and summer opportunity. Big ticket items like the Jamboree, of course, were not there. And so the arena is looking at certainly a financial crunch. The next meeting, we will be presented with sort of an amended budget to sort of look at exactly where we will stand in terms of a shortfall for the arena. But kudos to Mr. Rashawn Rod, who's been looking after, who's the manager of the arena. He's still working every day. They have the arena is open. They've had to make lots of considerations for COVID, number of kids available, how many family is available, how the dressing rooms are used. The Rockhounds are still going to be playing, and so we just have to take into consideration the health of our community. But the arena is up and operating, and we're just going to hope for the best for the future. And soon we'll have a really good grasp of exactly where the arena stands financially.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Councillor Miles on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you. Passed. Item B, the North Hastings Economic Development Committee. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft has hereby received the minutes. North Hastings Economic Development meetings held on February 3rd, 2020, June 1st, 2020, August 31st, 2020, as presented. Councillor Miles, you'll move that one as well?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
And could I have a seconder, please, on that? Councillor Wiggins, and would you sort of like to bring us up to the State of the Union with respect to NHEDC?
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So this is a little bit repetitive, I think, for people that have been tuning in and paying attention to our meetings. The biggest focus for the NHEDC over the last 12 months has been the development of the walking trails, the accessible trails between McGeechee and the Eagle's Nest, which I will once again stress the work between HDTI and HEDC, the town, and down at McGeechee has been incredible. The trails are awesome. They're very accessible. They've been very busy. Every time I go by there now, I run up there just to kind of be nosy and have a look. And I do believe everybody is enjoying the trails that are there. There's still a little bit more work to be done up at Eagle's Nest, but this has been a really good project for the NHEDC, sort of overseeing the grant and the responsibility to make sure that the project was followed correctly. The interesting thing for the NHEDC right now is we're sort of in conversation about the mandate of the NHEDC, what the next focus may be or might not be actually. One of the main reasons for the NHEDC being organized many years ago, 10 or 12 years ago, you might know better than I, Mr. Mayor, was to sort of bring some recognition from the county to the fact that there is something north of 7. There are these municipalities up here, and we were sort of feeling as if the county wasn't there supporting us. So this is why this group banded together to have a regional voice to the county in terms of economic development. So the county has stepped up to that. There are a couple of groups that now meet with the county regarding us. So maybe this group has met its mandate by recognizing the fact that we are here. We are sort of going through a process of not all 7 municipalities maybe being in the same space as each municipality might not be in the same space as they have been in the past in terms of supporting the economic development group. So over the next few months, as the trail project is completed, our focus will be deciding whether or not there is value in the group still being together. There is some conversation that it is of value. One of the things that has been, that has been discussed on a regular basis is internet. Do we still have a need for it to be up in some of our neighborhoods? It's not, it needs to be brought even further into the region. And of course, the airport and what the safety aspect is of what that airport means to all of the region. So those are some things that the NHEDC will be going through to discuss whether or not the group will continue to work together. So it's up in the air at this point in terms of the direction of the NHEDC, but they've had a tremendous year, and the Trails has been a really, really good, successful project that has had more than one group to facilitate bringing it to the table, and I think everybody should be proud of that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Councillor Miles? One comment I'll segue off of yours there is with respect to the airport, and for people who aren't aware of it, it's used quite a bit by law enforcement, government services, and of course the Air Orange, or the emergency evacuation. The issue facing the airport right now is their in-ground fuel tanks have reached an expiry date and require approximately $200,000 to replace. So there have been some meetings on this, and it has been brought to the province's attention because a lot of the use comes from provincial agencies. So we're waiting to see where that goes, because if the tanks were deemed to be unfit, there would be no fuel at the airport, and that would be bad news, for sure. So just a little addendum to what you were saying there with respect to the airport. So, okay, could I have a show of hands for all in favor, please? Thank you. Item 11, business, computer server purchase. Be it resolved that council does hereby approve the single sourcing of a server to Zycom Technology Inc. as recommended by Hastings County for the town of Bancroft, not to exceed $12,000 before HST. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that one, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Miles and Treasurer Bill, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yes, certainly will. Thank you very much, Your Worship. Good afternoon, councillors, colleagues, and general public. Sorry, apologize a bit for the late report submission. It is a drop-in, as is the next one. We've been having some issues with our main tool, Great Plains, in terms of it's our main tool, main software, in terms of responding to the public quickly when we're on the phone, just general working speed, productivity-wise. Late last week on Friday, as a result of the county's review of the issue, they've determined that we do need to replace one of our servers for approximately $12,000 or a little bit less. And we'd like to get to that. Our policy is, our purchasing policy is such that anything over $10,000 requires an RFP, etc. This is just a tad over that. But due to kind of how it impacts the admin group specifically, we'd like to get to it. We've got a recommendation by the county in terms of our next steps. So if council willing, we'd like to go forward with that server replacement.
Thank you. Any Councillor Wiggins?
I just wondered, why would the county be involved in our internal computer system?
Yeah, it's a good question. We are supported as part of maybe a going forward wider portfolio to have more of an aggregation of central services. Leanne can speak strongly about that. Back a number of months ago, where we used to have ChoiceCom as our computer contractor for the issues that we have. We had a significant change of staff with our consultant contractor ChoiceCom. So very quickly, the county began their support services on behalf of our needs. That was about 6 months ago, and that's part of our support group is the county IT.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Wiggins?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Will this also let us work closer with the county?
Over to you, Leanne.
I'm sorry, Councillor Wiggins, can you repeat your question?
I just wondered will we match closer to the county if we switch to servers?
No, the server will provide access and a more robust system on our end. So the county supports a system that we already have in place. So they provide us with full IT services. They've identified the need for an update on our current server, and this is the purchase that would facilitate that.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
The question I've got is, it's a server that's obsolete, not Great Plains. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's exactly correct. It's hardware. It's a hardware issue.
Yep.
We have 3 servers. 2 of them are active. This is one of our 2 core servers that help support our tools. Like, again, Great Plains is just one of them. There's other software on this server. Great Plains is the most important right now. Nothing to do with the Great Plains software at all. We went through a 2018 upgrade back about 9 months ago. Other than speed, it seems to be operating for the most part well.
Good. Thank you.
Councillor Miles?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bill, what's the life expectancy of a server?
Well, they're anywhere between, I mean, they can actually last a very long time. I'll say between 5 and 10 years. They're fairly robust. You know, a laptop, a computer is $1,000. These are over $10,000. They're very robust, kind of industrial, commercial use. And we keep a good eye on them, but fairly long life.
And is memory and processing sort of where the technology changes and gets better?
Absolutely. Speed, size, speed and capacity is two of the variables that tend to excel as time passes, technology improvements.
Are we buying something that is like the baseline to just change where we are, or like if we added $2,000 or $3,000, would we buy something that would have a longer lifetime and be a better machine?
In this specific case, I wasn't that close to the quote, but mostly we're going to. My understanding is it's well matched to our needs. Just historically based, looking at these types of things before, yeah, there's always maybe a Cadillac version or so, but I believe this is a good, solid match, technology-wise and robustness to our needs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please. Motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the pumping station pump replacement. Be it resolved, the council waived the town purchasing policy to approve the purchase of 2 new pumps from Smart Turner for the Dairy Queen pumping station at a cost of no more than $200,000, including HST. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that one, please? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Miles. And are you going to speak to this one as well, Bill?
I believe I will, unless Perry is there to speak to it.
Okay. Okay.
Here.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and everyone here. The pumping station, the pumps at the pumping station at the Dairy Queen are aged, as it is noted in Leanne's report. Those are an item that no matter how much maintenance we do on, we just, when they come to the end of their life cycle, we either rebuild them or look at building new ones. They are in our eyesight to have them changed out within the next 2 years, looking at all of our pump stations for upgrades. But unfortunately, the one motor had give up on us a while ago and the other one give up on us on the weekend. So we're looking at replacing both pumps with the exact like for like pumps that are in there at this time.
So you potentially could have had a catastrophic failure occur this weekend if they had not been able to get that pump back up and running. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Everything goes to the Dairy Queen pumping station and then is pumped to the sewer plant. So it's an integral part of our system, that one right there. And I mean integral.
Right. So even though the old saying is that it flows downhill, this could have gone back up the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. So between Leanne, myself, and our treasurer Bill and Veolia, we've doing some juggling around in the capital for 2020 in order to accommodate this last minute purchase. So it's not going to affect our bottom line in any way. We just got to just be a little bit creative in what gets done when. That's all.
Thank you. Bill, did you want to comment on this from a financial and budget perspective?
Perhaps just to mirror what Perry said, we've actually been working on the water and the sewer budgets, reviewing 2020 plus looking into next year as well. So we're pretty familiar with the lay of the land there as of late. We did have, to Perry's point, we did have something we're almost going forward with, and we still may to a small degree being blowers for the sewer plants, which are they were budgeted for $140,000. This will fit in within that line item, and we've got a little bit of flexibility otherwise as well. So yeah, so I also support this path.
So let me get it straight. So you're going to defer the blower replacement, sub this in its place, plus add some other money.
Well, we may begin toward the end of the year an RFP process for the blowers. So we still might go forward with the beginning stages, but certainly we'll defer the major capital side of things.
Right. So we had a long-term cost projections budget, 5-year budget, et cetera, on the for both the water and the sewer. Were these pumps in the long-range budget already?
Barry, I could give like an answer, but it might be more intimate for you.
I think everything has been accounted for in the 5-year capital plan. We've been dialing in to more specifics on some of the operating procedures of the water and the wastewater systems, namely the pumps and stuff that are an ongoing maintenance issue. So the longer term range in the 5-year plan was to look at upgrading all of our pumping stations, the workings inside them, the generators, bring everything right up to spec. So
there was dollars allocated down the road somewhere for some of this work.
We yes, Mr. Mayor, between Veolia and ourselves, we've been looking at 5 years out. Maybe not showing this so much right to council in our budget process. We've been doing annually, but it's definitely been on our radar. Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you had a question?
Yes, I did, Your Worship. I think I read in the report where the pump that we're using right now is the extra pump, so we don't have anything else to back up. Is that correct, Perry?
That's right. So typically the way it works is they have two pumps. They have a primary pump and a secondary pump. So when the primary pump burns out, then they use the secondary pump, and that we're using that spare pump right at the moment. So when we replace these, it's not that we're going to put both pumps into service, but we'll have one brand new pump in service and the other pump will be the secondary pump. So that's correct. Yes.
So at the present time, we don't have a spare. You were able to get the one working, and
that's correct. So
are they something delivery on a new pump? Is that what are we talking about?
10 to 12 weeks. So
10 to 12 weeks.
10 to 12 weeks, and we're going to push to see if we can get that sooner than later, obviously. But it's just one of those things that we'll just keep a close eye on it, and it's more feasible for us to replace the actual pumps like for like than it is to repair the ones that are there as well.
Yeah,
The cost of a pump that's been put in there in the 1950s, we're better off to go with brand new, better technology as well. So
yeah, I agree with you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Anybody else with any questions on that? Councillor Wiggins.
Just looking at the report, we're buying 2 new pumps, so we'll have 2 new ones, one in service and a new one is standby. And the standby now, what will happen to it?
Well, I think we'll keep it as a standby because if
That's
it's
what I was
still in
hoping.
operations, I don't think we'll scrap it. You know, if it's still operational and we can at least have it as a reserve for us, it would be pointless to throw it out, Councillor Wiggins.
Yeah, emergency backup would be fine for sure. Thank you.
So Perry, if something happens with the backup pump before the new pump arrives, what's the plan?
That's a good question. This
Okay.
has just come to swim. This has just kind of come to light today. So I will have further conversations with Veolia so that we have a backup plan contingency.
The contractor that provided the quote that we're working with today did note that if there was an emergency, he could be on site to try and get us back up and running until we get something more permanent in place. So they are aware that we're running on borrowed time right now, but hopefully we can get it replaced in time. We would have been 8 to 10 weeks, I believe, for repairs because they still need to create new parts. They're rebuilding a lot of these, or actually creating them in a foundry. So we're only about a 2-week difference between the brand new and the rehab. So
okay. What does it take time-wise? This is more for an individual to get a backflow prevention valve installed or etc. I'm wondering, should we be notifying the areas that potentially could be most affected by this and make a recommendation or a suggestion?
I do believe, Mr. Mayor, we do have a bypass on it as well right now. So I think we do have a certain amount of time before we get into that type of a situation. And also too, we could also, we have some localized trucks that would be able to move the materials for us so that we don't get into that kind of situation.
So that's your backup.
That's it, yeah.
there are alarms on all of the pumping stations. So the minute something goes wrong, the staff are notified and they were able to attend on scene and see what was happening. So.
Great, thank you. Barry.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Perry, are the rest of our pumps from that same era, or are they staggered in age? Is it something that we need to really take a hard look at over the next 5 years or 10 years? Or
that's a good point, Councillor McGibbon. We are actually taking a hard look at them because I think they're all of the same era. I do believe the one at Valley View is quite a bit of a newer system because of the way the system was built. And I think there were some upgrades done there, if I'm not mistaken, when the leachate line was put in there. So I think looking at all the pumping stations is definitely something that we're intrigued by to make sure that we have the best means possible.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
If I could, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Caulfield.
Just clarifying that the motion we have is to waive the procurement policy. So we're doing that because of the emergency or the pending potential emergency as opposed to our normal purchasing. I just want to clarify that. Is that right?
Leanne, you want to answer that?
That's correct, Councillor Caulfield, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item C, North Hastings Heritage Museum. Be resolved that Council, the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby support an application by the Bancroft North Hastings Heritage Museum for the New Horizons for Seniors grant for the purpose of gathering and printing a book of Seniors' Memories. Moved by Councillor Wiggins, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Councillor Wiggins, do you have some knowledge of this?
Yes, I do. Our museum chair, Mary Kavanaugh, came across, it was another opportunity to apply for the Horizons grant. She checked with Leanne to make sure no other community and group was involved in it, and as far as we know, there wasn't. So it came back that we could apply. So the idea is that we already have one book that we sell now on seniors stories, and this is all towards moving the museum to be self-sufficient. So this is just another little step along the way. So this grant will allow us to print this book and make it available for sale.
Thank you. All in favor, please? Motion passes. Item D, Rally of the Tall Pines Cancellation Notice 2020. Be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby received the notice of cancellation for the 2020 Rally of the Tall Pines event for information purposes only. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Barry McGibbon. Fire Chief Hoover, you're there, are you?
Yes, I am.
So I believe you were involved along with the clerk with some of the background discussions with the Tall Pines folks. So maybe you'd just like to give everybody a little bit of insight on how this arrived.
Thank you, Your Worship. The clerk and myself were involved with discussions with the organizers of the Rally of the Tall Pines. We had reached out to them to see how their planning for the 2020 season was going. They had developed a plan to address their actual racing function inside of the rec center and the grounds they're in, and had done a spectacular job of trying to mitigate the effects of COVID on it. However, with the recent changes of restrictions and gathering sizes being that to 25 in the inside a building and 10 outside, there was restrictions that are and unknowns that were forthcoming from the government over the next little while. They were at a stage where they were required to start spending money to be able to pull off this year's rally and the commitment that was going to be required. But we did have some concerns with the gathering of fans at such an event. Yes, they had provided means for security and whatnot inside of the event, but with rally racers, there's the love of the sport, and right now with COVID, there's certainly we've seen what happened in Wasaga Beach, and that was an unorganized event there, and we certainly didn't want a spike in our community of that nature with people coming from Ottawa, Toronto, Quebec. There was nobody crossing the border for this event. However, we did have some concerns with the outsides, and in some long, hard discussions with Rosswood and the organizers, they came to the conclusion that for the safety and betterment of everything for everyone this year, and to consider canceling this year's event, coming back next year stronger and bigger with a great celebration of their 50th running anniversary, and then thus was a kind of a joint decision between the town of Bancroft and the rally to put the safety of our citizens and their racers at the forefront. So
thank you. Any questions or comments for the chief on that? So as the chief did mention, this was to be the 50th, which will make next year the 50th. So I'm going to put the bug in Councillor Tracy McGibbon here to keep that in mind, so we can consider doing something special in cooperation with the organizers as far as some type of event, et cetera. So
sure.
Okay, and I have spoken to the race organizers, and they think if there could be something. In the old days, there used to be, something that came in town, whether it be a parade, et cetera. So anyway, just something for us to consider for next year. cetera. So anyway, could I have a show of hands for all in favor, please? Thank you. Motion is passed. Item E, Bancroft Community Safety and Wellbeing regarding Halloween 2020. I will read the resolution here. It says, whereas the risk of spreading COVID-19 is still present in our community, and whereas we rely on provincial guidelines and recommendations on ways that can prevent the spread of the virus, and whereas the safety of our community is the responsibility of each and every resident, and whereas the school administrators in the town of Bancroft support an in-school approach to Halloween, now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby make it known that it strongly recommends that any Halloween celebrations for the year of 2020 take place within our area schools, and further that traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating advised against in order to help stop the spread of COVID-19, and further that this resolution be circulated to all North Hastings municipalities for support for a coordinated approach to Halloween 2020. Deputy Mayor, would you like to move that, please?
So move, I'll move it.
And seconded by Councillor Wiggins. Did you want to speak to it at all, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I'd say a few words if I may. I did contact the members of our Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee. We tried to have a meeting, normal meeting last month, and that didn't work out. So one of the items that we were going to discuss was this item of Halloween. I contacted the members, and as you can see, all of the principals that sit on that table, sit in that committee, were in agreement as well as everyone else that not a nice thing to do to have to cancel Halloween, but for the safety of all concerned, we felt it best that we bring this resolution to council, and so there it is today.
Thank you. Any other comments? So I'm sorry, Councillor Barry McGibbon, you'll have to save your new costume for next year. But,
Well, as long as you don't cancel Christmas.
I'm not sure if we have that power, but anyway.
Ho, ho, ho.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion as presented? Thank you. Item F, COVID-19 Safe Restart Agreement, Municipal Operations Phase 2. The resolution is, be it resolved, the council does hereby approve the application be made for provincial funding under Safe Restart Agreement, Municipal Operations Phase 2 on the basis that the funding provided under Phase 1 is not sufficient to address the 2020 COVID-19 related operating pressures as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles, and a seconder, Councillor Tracy McGibbon, please. So, Bill, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yes, I certainly will. Thank you again, Your Worship, and good afternoon once again. So I'm just going to provide just a short presentation of the highlights of the report that I submitted, and add a few more points that became obvious since last Thursday when the report was submitted. So there are 2 phases as part of this COVID-19 Safe Restart Agreement to be offered by the province. And the guidelines actually were just issued a week ago, last Thursday. There's been a series of webinars this past week that were provided, which I've attended. So some new information has come forth. So as everyone probably already knows, so again, 2 phases. Phase 1, we got $125,000 and it was just basically, here you go. We didn't have to apply for that. It just showed up on our doorstep, so to speak. Of course, there was larger lobby groups that worked on our behalf. However, if municipalities believe that the amount allocated, again, in our case, $125,000, is insufficient, they can apply, put an application forward for Phase 2 funding. And I would like to put that forward. There's also potentially ISIP funding, that's infrastructure funding downstream for infrastructure projects That's yet ill-defined. That's ill-defined at this point, so I'm just going to park that on the side. So looking through the guidelines of this phase 2 application and the training that I've received from the various provincial webinars, there's a package. They've supplied a massive Excel package, and there's a number of items that they require to assess. Kind of a win for us, I think, is what they require as a baseline. They ask for the pre-COVID council approved budget. In our case, we had our first budget that was put forward to the Committee of the Whole last March. It was approved by the Committee of the Whole to be approved by council in April. Lo and behold, COVID was swinging its arms feverishly, and we ended up revising that budget and resubmitting in April, which was eventually approved by council in April. So, our March pre-COVID budget, it was approved by council in a way, Committee of the Whole. I've spoken to the province, and I believe they will support that view. That's good because it shows a bit of a different story. In my eyes, Bancroft, from a financial standpoint, has been harmed from a long-term sustainability standpoint because we did a lot of things, such as take away our reserve building, well over $100,000, et cetera. There's a number of things that we did to operate as responsibly and try to mitigate the issues as we saw them at that time as best as we could. But in fact, I believe, that our long-term sustainability was impaired somewhat. So what happens is a package is put forth to the province. They do not look at specific, it's not on a claims made basis. For an example, it's not as if we're putting together a list to say, well, you know what, we spent X number of dollars on PPE, X number of dollars on extra cleaning. Our building permit fees were a lot lower than, so we don't put together, even though I've included a list of items that notionally where we've experienced some disfavor, they will look. They, being the province, will look at our submission on an overall basis. When I end up filling out this spreadsheet and I began working on it, there's not a number that appears at the bottom magically, one number that says, oh, it's $192,000. There's a number of different views to it, so they will assess, they being the province will assess on an overall basis. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to make a case because I really honestly do think that we deserve some additional funding. This submission per design, per their instructions, will also include our other boards, library, arena, museum, and also the transit, Bancroft Community Transit as well. So they will be included as part of this submission. I've spoken to each one of the boards, each one of the lead people to amass some data from them. And so we will go forth. I've asked the province, I said, hey, it's not as if I have data to specifically provide to the council today in terms of this is what we look like. And they said, that's okay. The treasurer can continue to work on the data while, council has already approved, if I'm fortunate enough today, the go ahead to submit it. It just so happens it's due at the end of October. I applied just for a small technical extension until November the 6th, which is almost meaningless. So this is the best chance to get council's blessing to move forward. I I intend to do so with council's support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the treasurer? Seeing none, could I have a show of hands, please, to support? Okay, thank you. Passed.
Thank you.
Item G, Local Initiative Program Contribution Agreement. Be resolved, the council does hereby enter into an agreement by bylaw with Community Futures Development Corporation of North and Central Hastings and South Algonquin for the Local Initiative Program Contribution Agreement, and further that council approve the award of the contract for services to Basterfield and Associates. Could I have a mover and a seconder on this, please? Councillor Tracy
I will, yep.
and Councillor
I will second.
Councillor Caulfield as well. So, who would like to speak on this?
I will. Amber wrote this great report following up on the work that Malcolm did to put in an application for this project. So this is coming out of the downtown committee that's been looking at options to support and enhance the work that's going to be done next year on Hastings Street North. So one of the thoughts that came forward was that a landscape architect and lighting consultant would be helpful to really help the committee envision what downtown could look like. And the cost of that approximately is $10,000. And Malcolm submitted a an application to Community Futures Development Corporation for funding, which was successful. So we have an agreement we need to pass a bylaw to enter into. And I would ask for council's review and approval of that today, please.
You bailed Amber out. I was going to just call her. She can't hide behind that little black box forever. Also, there is a walk around date that's been scheduled. Has there not been? Do you want to? I forget what that date is.
I'm sorry, I don't have access to my email right now, but I believe it's next week or the week after, the early 22nd perhaps. So we'll get more out on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And did that note go out to all the council?
I am not sure who it went to, but I'll find out.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or questions on that? All in favor, please. Passed. Thank you. Item H, cannabis reference material, stop illicit grow-ops. The draft resolution before us is where the Government of Canada passed the Cannabis Act 2018 legislation legalizing properties to grow a maximum of 4 plants without license. And whereas Health Canada issues licenses for medicinal cannabis production that are specific to set properties without municipal consultation and regardless of land use zoning bylaws. And whereas pharmaceutical companies and industries are required to follow strict regulations and governing legislation to produce medicinal products, including Narcotic Control Regulation and Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. And whereas municipalities are authorized under the Planning Act to pass a comprehensive zoning bylaw that is in compliance with the appropriate county official plan, which must be in compliance with the provincial policy statement under the Planning Act 2020. And whereas the provincial policy statement, official plan, and zoning bylaw in effect for each area is designed to secure the long-term safety and best use of the land, water, and other natural resources found in that area's natural landscape. And whereas the town of Bancroft has not been consulted by Health Canada regarding licenses for properties not in compliance with the municipal zoning bylaw for a cannabis production facility. And whereas the province needs to amend legislation to establish a new Provincial Offences Act regime that creates an offense or offenses when unlicensed cannabis operations break planning and environmental regulations, ignore building code requirements, and build without a permit, a fine of at least $100,000 per offense. And therefore be it resolved that the town of Bancroft requests that immediate action be taken by all levels of government for medical cannabis licenses to follow similar regulations and guidelines as all other pharmaceutical industries. And further, that the Association of Municipalities of Ontario advocate with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities for advocation to the Government of Canada for similar regulations and guidelines for medical cannabis licensing in alignment with other pharmaceutical industries. And further, that distribution of medical cannabis be controlled through pharmacies in consistency of all other medications. And further, that Health Canada withhold licensing until the potential license holder can provide evidence of acceptable zoning of the intended property in question. And further, that this resolution be circulated to the Prime Minister of Canada, Health Canada, the Premier of the Province of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Ontario Provincial Police, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all upper, lower, and single-tier municipalities within the province of Ontario. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Tracy McGibbon. Comments? So, Leanne, how did this come about that we have drafted this? Are we seeing incidents? Are we getting complaints? Are the police involved? What is the story there?
No, this is one of a few resolutions that are making its way around municipalities across Ontario right now in response to a fairly strong surge of arrests and publicity with respect to illegal or unauthorized growing operations.
Right. So there's one clause in there that I'm just a little fuzzy on it. It's regard to the distribution of medical cannabis be controlled through pharmacies. That's not referring to the recreational side, just the medical side. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's still a distinction between medicinal cannabis use and the recreational cannabis use that's sold through OCS and similar stores.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, all in favor? Thank you, passed. Item I, Wollaston Township letter to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, resolution requesting changes to Municipal Elections Act. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby support Wollaston Township's letter to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing with respect to the resolution requesting changes to the Municipal Election Act. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that one, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Barry McGibbon. Leanne, did you want to talk on this? Do you have some background information or just what's in the letter?
Your Worship, I really don't, just what's in the letter.
Yeah. It's very interesting when you read the letter. It's like the thing that really stunned me, that even though there's a law there, if there's no case law, it becomes impossible to prosecute. So how will you ever get case law if it's a bit of a catch-22? Because you obviously need a case to have case law. So I found that very interesting in that letter. So any other comments or questions on that? All in favor, please. Passed. Thank you. Letter, St. Paul's, Bancroft, North Hastings Community Trust. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby received a letter from St. Paul's United Church for information purposes only. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor, would you move that for me, please? And Councillor Miles. So there's the letter before you. It was in response to a letter that Council sent with respect to the warming center and the issue and the program that occurred at one of the motels in town there and the resulting issues that arose out of it. In the letter, it was incorrectly referenced that both were run by the Community Trust, which we acknowledge. And I did send a letter to Community Trust acknowledging the exact fact that that while some of their folks may have been involved, it was not their organization. That really wasn't the point of the letter. The point of the letter and all ongoing discussions that we've had since then is with respect to however this is done. We need it to be done in a proper manner and with trained individuals. That's been our stance in the meeting that I referenced in my opening remarks with MP Derek Sloan, and I don't know how many, there was quite a few participants. again, that was what was referenced, is that, yes, something needs to be done, but we are not the experts and we need help with this particular matter. So that was the point of the letter. I don't know if you want to make any other comment, Deputy Mayor?
Your worship, I think you've covered mainly covered the letter. As you have said, we sent a letter to out previously, and obviously, I guess we were mistaken in who was actually involved or who was running it. And we did have a meeting with Minister Lynn Watson regarding it and explained ourselves. So yeah, I think we've covered it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on that? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you. Okay, item K. Well, you know what, it's 4 o'clock. Why don't we take 5 minutes, please, to replenish our water, et cetera. So we'll re-adjourn in?
At 4:06.
Sure, sounds good.
Just a reminder to please mute yourself and turn your video off for the break.
Click.
Paul, did you know there was a Bancroft in Michigan?
Yes, I see it pop up on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
I
Tracy just
sent Leanne a note one day saying, I didn't know we had a meeting tonight. And she said, that's Bancroft, Michigan.
Yeah, there's some people from Tennessee emailed Tracy wanting to rent ATVs. And then she informed them that we're Canada. Yeah, it was wrong.
Their town symbol looks like, you glance at it real quick, it sort of looks like ours, you know, because it's very small on the Facebook page as well. So
Yeah.
there's actually one in either Michigan or Indiana that I've gone through as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess the one in Michigan was named after a mining company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do we have everybody back? Is the deputy mayor there?
No.
Okay. What about Councillor Caulfield?
Councillor Caulfield has dropped off the line, so I'm wondering if she's switching to video.
Okay.
And I'm back. Thank you.
Okay. Are we back on stream?
You're all set to start, Your Worship.
Okay, we will resume, please. Item K, Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Appreciation Day. Be it resolved that the town of Bancroft is hereby proclaim October 22nd, 2020 as Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. And further, that staff be directed to publish a poster on the town's social media page to recognize and celebrate the day. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Tracy McGibbon and Councillor Miles. Any comments or questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you. Item L, encroachment agreement, 1 Hastings Street North. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft enter into an encroachment agreement with Dominion Mountain to satisfy condition number 5 of provincial consent for file number B119/19. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon, Councillor Wayne Wiggins. Robin, I see you're there. Are you going to explain this to us?
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council. The encroachment agreement is for the property municipally known as 1 Hastings Street North, which is the subject to an application of severance to cure an inadvertent merge with the adjacent property, 3 Hastings Street North. The subject lands are built out and a portion of the structure encroaches onto Bridge Street East road allowance. The encroachment agreement the encroachment is shown as part 5 on the attached plan of survey. As a condition of the consent, the applicant is to enter into an encroachment agreement with the town to recognize that the existing structure encroaches upon the municipal road allowance. The agreement was drafted by the town's lawyer, and once it has been executed, will be registered on the title of the subject lands.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I have a question. So this would never have come to light if this inadvertent merging had never occurred and then it needed to be pulled apart. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's come forward due to the application of consent.
Okay, okay. And this merging, where does this occur? Is it at the MPAC level that it's initiated, or how does it?
It occurs under the Planning Act. If the properties were not created by consent or under a plan of subdivision and were then put into the same name, they inadvertently merge on title.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions on that? All in favor, please. Thank you. Item M, it's that time already. Christmas office closure. Be it resolved, the council approve the closure of the town office from noon on Thursday, December 24th to 8:30 a.m. on Monday, January 4th, 2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Miles, and a seconder, Councillor Tracy McGibbon. All in favor? Thank you. Item 12, Public Hearings Planning Act. There is none. Item 13, business arising from notice of motions. There is none. Item 14, notice of motion. There is none. Item 15 is a consent agenda, which covers items items B, I guess it is, through I. Is there anything in there that anybody would like to have pulled out and discussed separately, as opposed to just approving them en masse? Anybody? Okay, well, I have two. The first one that I would like to pull out is item E, from the office, I should say office of the Solicitor General. And item G, the item from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing regarding emergency funding. So I guess the consent agenda will be resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda item 17. What's it going to read, Leanne? I'm too tired to figure this out.
Except for E and G.
Okay, except for E and G. Thank you. Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Thank you. Item E. Do we need a motion or something to put this on the table? So what should said motion read?
So be it resolved that item E of the consent agenda be received for discussion purposes.
Okay, could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Caulfield. And seconder on that, please, Councillor Miles. So the reason I wanted this pulled, and I was wondering, Deputy Mayor, if you thought this would be an item that we should bring forward to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee for. There are many things that are touched on there, from the policing to mental health, addiction initiatives, investments, et cetera. These are certainly all very topical with all of the discussions that we're having right now. And I thought maybe it deserved a little closer attention than just to pass.
If I might, Your Worship, yes, I think it should come to community safety. I was assuming maybe because of COVID-19, we weren't hearing much about the new Policing Act, but it looks like they're still looking at that. So there's that, plus the racism. There's a bunch of items there that we need to look at. So I think our agenda for our next meeting will be getting quite full, but that's one we certainly should look at.
Okay.
All of those.
Okay. Do we need to modify our resolution or?
Oh, Your Worship, that's fine.
That's fine. I'll just go to community safety and wellbeing. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So all in favor on that one, please? Thank you. And the other item, where did it go? Item G. This is the one with respect to the announcement, I believe that was made. Do I have the correct one here about the money for the housing?
I believe this is about the Safe Restart, which is
Okay, I'm
the
sorry.
program that the treasurer spoke to earlier.
Okay, then I goofed. I thought there was one in here with respect to the money that was announced from the federal government. So anyway, it's not. So
So
anyway.
you'll still need a resolution to receive consent agenda item G for information purposes.
Okay. And a mover, Councillor Wiggins and Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Thank you. So, okay. Item 16, community announcements and events. Not much going on in the community announcement these days. So would anybody like to speak to anything? Maybe Councillor Miles, I know you've already mentioned it, but maybe worthwhile again, just highlighting again the Eagle's Nest, because I just wanted to add a comment after you speak to that as to what your knowledge of is what's, if any, of what's coming next with respect to what's going on up there.
In my conversations with Chief Hoover, one of the things that we sort of need to complete into next year is the actual to the viewing platform. And so that part is still needed to be done. And that will really complete the whole, you can sort of get someone there in a wheelchair right now. It's a very good surface. It's a solid surface. It's a really good walk. You can get close enough that you have a nice visual, but to actually get somebody up onto the ramp, there still is just a bit more work to be done in terms of the ramping. There is still some signage to be done from the HDTI side. Sort of some mapping, some of those big visuals that you see. So those things are still to be updated. And I think once those pieces are done, then it will be, that will be completed. I know that the town of Bancroft has worked on that platform. It needed some new decking. There are a couple of spongy spots, and my understanding is those are the last few things to be looked after. But the bathrooms are all there, good and working. And anytime I've now taken a little quick jaunt up the hill and down, it's been packed, it's been full. And I've seen posts, people are back up there taking a look and sort of, commenting about the views, and very happy about what has been presented there. But then just a few last little things, and they might be important if you need a map to figure out where you're going there. So just be safe, anybody who's walking through there. And the last little bit of really meeting the needs of accessibility, and that will get completed. And that was our end to get completed.
Okay, thank you. I did see a post on Facebook on the weekend of a complaint of an individual that there was, although the Hawk Watch is signed for social distancing, that people weren't doing that. So I did speak to the fire chief today on that, about some additional signage, and even suggested a mandatory mask requirement if you're going out onto the Hawk Watch. So, because that was the other comment that was made, that people weren't wearing masks and they were fairly crowded up in there. So anyway.
Oh, that's interesting. The few times that I did actually get it, I've driven up, but I've also actually walked out there again. I actually did a video. The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board is celebrating a 100-year anniversary this year. And because I've volunteered with real estate, they asked me to do a video, and I did a video from up at the Hawk Watch. It was kind of cool. So and so I've been up there once or twice to do that, and everybody was very respectful that I crossed paths with. So on any given day, you might find that that is the case, and that's too bad if somebody feels that way, because I think that we all should be aware that wearing a mask is the best thing we can all be doing for each other.
Thank you. Anybody else on the community front? Councillor Barry McGibbon. You're muted, Barry.
I have an announcement, and I want to say kudos to Eastern Ontario Trail Alliance. Their rail line is in awesome shape. It was long overdue, but the people in North Hastings really appreciate it. I've heard nothing but good things, Wayne. So if you want to pass that on, but I've seen probably 3 times or 4 times higher number of ATVs and UTVs this time of year here in Bancroft, and it's one way people can get out, and they're socially distancing themselves, and I think we have an abundance of opportunity there. And I know next spring we hope to run a big event. We're not going to say much about it now, but we wanted to do it this fall, and we had a low-key event planned, but then the COVID numbers changed and we had to cancel it. So hopefully next spring we can do something that's really big and different. So anyways.
Thank you, Barry. I'll definitely take that back to EOTA. I know the latest was last week, the last 3 days, they totally graded the trail from Bancroft to Lake St. Peter. So for anyone up in that area, I think they'll find a marked improvement. And EOTA does the best they can with the resources they have. And sometimes if it's in your backyard, sometimes it's not quite as good as you'd like, but just keep in mind overall that they're doing the best they can for the majority of people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Councillor Caulfield, please.
I just want to follow up on my earlier comments with regard to the Downtown Enhancement Committee. I was a little bit evasive in my comments because I didn't want to identify the community agency until we formally did the stuff we need to do to accept that grant. But I do want to say a big thank you to Community Futures Development Corporation for supporting us with the funds that we need to really get an informed and educated vision of what our downtown could look like. That $10,000 grant is going to go so far to give us educated information about lighting and downtown landscaping. We might have made all the right decisions, but now we're going to have some professionals to guide us and back us up in that. So kudos and thank you to Community Futures.
Great. And just on that, if you go on the consultant's website and see some of the work that they've been involved in, it looks pretty spectacular as well. So, Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I should have thought about this when you first said something to me. I would like to thank Chief Hoover and the BBIA through some communication regarding our 4 entry gardens and the 2 shade gardens that are in town that lots of things sort of got overgrown and sort of what felt a little bit out of control. And it was noticed within our community. So those gardens have, I know for sure the one to the north has been tended to. I know the 2 shade gardens have been attended to. And I really want to thank the BBIA because I had to sort of navigate through exactly some of those responsibilities. So between the chief and myself and the BBIA, those gardens are getting tended to. They're getting some improvements that are needed. And the plan moving forward for next year would be to start to look for some volunteer groups. So I'm going to put that out there. Anybody who is interested in helping to volunteer to look after our entry gardens, we're going to try. We're going to put it forward. I've had somebody from the community already reach out to me and say, look, we'd be willing to do that. So but the fact they are getting looked after now, and I think those things are so important. There's something like when you're selling a house, it's your very first impression. What happens when you pull up to the curb? Every one of those gateways has one of those gardens. And so thank you, BBIA, for getting them cleaned up this fall. Thanks, Chief Hoover, for the plan for the future. And I think it's a good thing for our community.
Thank you. Anybody else with anything? Okay, we will move on to item 17, bylaws. First, second, and third reading. Be resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 56, 2020, being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into agreement with Community Futures Development Corporation of North and Central Hastings and South Algonquin for the local initiative program contribution agreement. Bylaw number 57, 2020, being a bylaw to constitute and appoint a downtown enhancement committee for the town of Bancroft. Bylaw number 58, 2020, being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into a site plan agreement with Bancroft Real Estate Holdings, Inc. And bylaw number 59, 2020, being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into an encroachment agreement. Do we do these separately, Leanne, A's, B's, and C's, or?
It's all one.
Oh, it's just repeating down below, isn't it?
You just have to show them separately in order to attach the.
Yeah. You tell me that every meeting and I forget it every meeting, so that's
not a problem.
Okay. So all in favor on that, or any questions on that, on any of those? Did you have a question, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question I have in regarding the site plan agreement. Once that is agreed to today, is there an expectation that there'll be a building permit issued soon?
So now that once council passes the bylaw for the site plan agreement, the building permit can be issued. There are still some items that need to be addressed in order for that to be done. So I know that the developer and the CBO are working through those items now.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor, please. Thank you. So I guess our next item is a closed session. Is there a particular time that we've got that scheduled for, Leanne?
No, we can move into closed session now. We have several items to discuss, so.
Okay. Okay. Moving into closed session, be it resolved, the council of the corporation town of Bancroft is hereby moving to closed session pursuant to the Municipal Act SO 2001, Section 239(2)C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. General nature, Club 580, land use development, state of claim. Could I have a mover